clock. The weight of expectations has distracted you from what has already shifted inside your spirit. But now, the silence breaks. Now, the truth confronts you, and the chosen one demands your attention. Before we unfold this revelation, I want to pause and thank every one of you who has stood with this channel, especially those who have shown love through super thanks. Your support means more than words can capture. If you feel the weight of this message pressing into your soul, comment 777 below as a declaration that you are ready to step into the unveiling. Stay with me, because in the next breath, we will walk into the very reason why this moment has finally come. And it will change how you see everything. God's chosen ones. The moment you've feared has finally arrived. Here's why. We imagine transformation must roar like thunder, arrive with lightning across the horizon, or declare itself with fireworks over the night sky. Yet, in truth, God often works through whispers, not through noise. Change is more like the shifting of tectonic plates beneath the earth, silent, unseen, but powerful enough to reshape continents. Scripture reminds us of this mystery. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire, a still small voice. 1 Kings 19:12. Could it be that the very shift you feared, the very moment you thought might break you, has already been quietly building within you without your recognition? Transformation does not need an audience to be real. It needs alignment with heaven's timing, like a star that burns for thousands of years before its light reaches earth. Your change may already be shining, even if your eyes have not yet caught it. And isn't that the paradox of the chosen ones, that heaven celebrates what earth still ignores? When strength was your prayer, did God simply hand you power? Or did he place you before walls so high you had no choice but to climb? My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Often the answer is not delivered wrapped in gold, but wrapped in struggle. And when you prayed for love, was it not loss that taught you to value your own heart? To recognize the fingerprint of God within you before you sought it in another? How many of the greatest figures in Scripture walked this paradox? Joseph, betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, only discovered his purpose through betrayal, not celebration. David, crowned in promise, first faced lions, bears, and then the fury of Goliath. Could it be that the very pain you resented has already been the architecture of your transformation? And what if the very tears you tried to hide were watering the soil of your destiny, preparing a harvest you never imagined? Pain, when surrendered to God, becomes the doorway to authority. This truth reverberates not only in the sacred text, but also across the human story. The Italian painter Michelangelo once said that every block of stone contains a statue, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it. What if your current battles are God's chisel strokes, carving away what hides your true form? The world may only see fragments of you breaking away, but heaven sees the masterpiece being revealed. Each strike of the chisel hurts, but without it, the form remains hidden forever. Isn't it powerful to realize that the pain you feel is not destruction, but revelation, like marble? Your destiny is hidden in layers, and only pressure can free it. And consider also the words of Pope John Paul II, who reminded a generation scarred by war and doubt, the future starts today, not tomorrow. His call was not to wait for grand moments, but to embrace the hidden whispers of change already present. Do you see now why your fear has arrived clothed in the ordinary? Because God works in resonance, not in spectacle. Every frequency of heaven vibrates through silence before it manifests in sound. And just as music begins with pauses before notes, your life's symphony begins with silence before destiny plays. Fear loses its grip when you recognize that even the ordinary day is carrying extraordinary weight. Yet let us not ignore the warning of the destructive path. Take, for example, King Saul, a man anointed yet unwilling to wait in obedience. His impatience cost him the throne and severed his lineage. The lesson is haunting. When transformation approached him, he met it with fear and haste, not trust. His downfall became a testimony to what happens when whispers from heaven are drowned out by the noise of self. How many leaders today mirror Saul's tragedy, rushing into power without character, craving applause without sacrifice? Their kingdoms rise quickly but crumble even faster. And what of those around us? Do we not see daily how pride blinds and impatience destroys? Saul is not merely history. He is a mirror of every soul that refuses stillness. The psalmist once declared, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. Stillness is not weakness, it is alignment. Like a tree whose roots push downward in silence before fruit ever shows on its branches. Your transformation takes time. The forest does not applaud the seed, but heaven does. The ocean does not trumpet its tides, yet the moon silently pulls them into motion. Isn't it the same with your life? While you waited for spectacle, the Spirit was already moving tides within you, and even the stars themselves preach this truth. They appear frozen in the night sky, yet they are racing across galaxies with unseen velocity. So too, your life appears still, but God's movement is hidden in its depths. Psychologists speak of cognitive dissonance, the tension when reality does not align with expectation. Spiritually, this dissonance often appears when we believe God has abandoned us, yet He has been guiding us in unseen ways all along. This is why Isaiah declared, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it?" Isaiah 43:19. Transformation rarely enters through the front door. It often comes quietly, through back corridors, disguised as loss, as silence, as waiting. Could it be that the very moments you tried to escape are the ones God is using to anchor you, and like the moon pulling the tides? Perhaps God has been pulling your heart while you resisted. What if His absence was the space He created for your growth? Sometimes the silence is louder than any answer, and yet, even in music, we find this truth echoed. In Beethoven's Symphony No. Woo, the opening 4 notes strike with force, but it is the quiet development that carries the true depth. Life is much the same. The grand announcement is not the transformation itself, but the silent process shaping you beneath the surface. Can you hear the symphony being written in your own soul? Even now, the greatest melodies are born in minor keys before they resolve into triumph. And your story, like a symphony, will not be remembered for its opening, but for its resolution. Do you sense the unfinished notes, waiting for your courage to complete them? History proves it again. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, emerged not with bitterness, but with vision. His transformation was not in the clamor of freedom, but in the silence of a prison cell. His story asks us, is the prison you fear actually the workshop of your destiny behind bars? Mandela became a leader. In silence, he became a voice. And is it not true that sometimes chains polish the soul more than crowns? Your isolation may feel like exile. But what if it is preparation? Perhaps your hidden season is your training ground. Not your punishment. This moment, the one you dreaded, is not the end of you. It is the unveiling of you. Like Jacob wrestling through the night, until he emerged with a limp, but also with a new name. You too will walk differently after this. Your scars will not be your shame. They will be your signatures of covenant. And as the Apostle Paul proclaimed, we know that all things work together for good to them that love God. Romans 8:28. Rise, chosen one. For heaven has already declared victory in your name. Fear is no longer your master. Faith is your inheritance. Stand now, because this is not collapse, it is coronation. The whisper you feared has become the trumpet of your destiny. When we pray for abundance, sometimes we are surprised that instead of overflowing rivers, a season of drought greets us. Yet, this paradox is the classroom of heaven. It is in the dry ground that the roots of the tree learn to stretch deeper into the unseen waters. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. Jeremiah 17:7-8. Could it be that your barrenness was never punishment, but preparation? A drought does not mean death, it means your roots are being forced to find the hidden streams no eye can see. And like the desert that blooms suddenly after rain, your life is holding seeds that only hardship can unlock. Even rivers begin as hidden springs beneath the soil. And sometimes your abundance is waiting in the depths, not on the surface. The drought is not God's silence. It is his whisper urging you to dig deeper. This is how heaven teaches. This is how God shapes vessels, not by pouring into containers that crack easily, but by testing them in fire until they can carry oil without spilling. Think of clay placed into a furnace. Only after it endures the heat does it become strong enough to hold water. The refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. But the Lord tests hearts. Proverbs 17:3. Have you noticed that in your darkest hours, something unexplainable was forged inside you? What if the pain was not a thief but a sculptor, chiseling away weakness so strength could remain? Like iron sharpened on stone, your spirit was being sharpened for battles you didn't even know were ahead. And isn't it striking that even volcanoes, though violent, create the richest soil on earth? What if your greatest eruption became the ground for your greatest harvest? And here is the truth I want you to hear today. You've already passed the test. The furnace did not destroy you. It refined you. You went through it. You endured it. You walked through valleys where silence was your only companion. Yet heaven recorded your footsteps. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. When no one clapped for you, when no one noticed, your dignity remained intact. Isn't it strange that some of the most powerful victories are the ones no one else sees? Just as the eagle learns to soar by facing storms alone, you too have learned endurance in the hidden places. Even the pearl is born in the hidden agony of the oyster, unseen by the ocean. What treasures has your unseen endurance already birthed? On the days when your strength felt like smoke, heaven saw more than survival. It saw transformation, like a caterpillar that dissolves completely before becoming a butterfly. You were not decaying. You were being remade. And the silence you mistook for God's absence was his way of weaving wings in secret. Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Could it be that the loneliness you feared was the very cocoon that protected your rebirth? Have you not realized that even the smallest seed must disappear into soil before it carries forests inside it? The night always feels longest before dawn. Yet the sunrise has never failed to appear. Isn't your dawn already pressing against the horizon? But here's the part most people miss. The final stage of breakthrough is not about fighting harder or proving yourself more. It is about becoming the kind of vessel that can hold the blessing without breaking. What use is rain if the jar cannot carry it? What use is abundance if the soul collapses under its weight? Jesus said, "No one pours new wine into old wineskins." Mark 2:22. Could it be that heaven has been stretching you, not to punish, but to expand your capacity? And just as the skin of a wineskin must be softened, stretched, and renewed before it can carry fresh wine, your life too was being prepared to hold something greater. Even mountains take shape by pressure, not by ease. Perhaps the weight you feel is not crushing you, but shaping you into a vessel fit for glory. Art and drama whisper this truth. In Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, Jean Valjean's transformation from a hardened prisoner to a vessel of grace was not instant. It was carved through pain, silence, and hidden choices of integrity. The stage of his soul was set not by applause, but by inner struggle. Isn't your life the same? The drama you feared was actually the rehearsal for a role heaven wrote only for you. And like a symphony, where minor keys eventually resolve into triumph, your suffering is not the finale, it is only the prelude. Shakespeare once wrote, "Sweet are the uses of adversity." Could it be that your greatest adversity is already tuning the strings for heaven's performance in your life? Chosen one, rise. The drought was never to kill you, but to stretch your roots. The furnace was never to consume you, but to prove your strength. The cocoon was never your tomb, but your hiding place until wings grew strong enough to touch the sky. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. 2 Corinthians 4:17. The moment you feared has already bowed to your endurance. Stand now. For abundance is not coming, it is already inside you. And if nature itself can survive winters only to blossom again in spring, why should your life be any different? Lift your head, for the crown is already waiting. And that final piece, it looks like this: accepting life as it is. But let us be clear, acceptance does not mean resignation. It does not mean shrinking your dreams to fit into disappointment. It does not mean lowering your vision until it dies in mediocrity. Rather, it means carrying a posture that declares, "Though I do not yet fully understand, I trust that this season is essential. I believe God is orchestrating a design far greater than I can perceive." Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Could it be that what feels like chaos is actually God's blueprint unfolding, one line at a time, like an unfinished cathedral? Your life is not ruined, it is simply still under construction. That is faith. That is obedience. And obedience is not blind, it is alignment. In physics, resonance happens when a small force applied at the right frequency produces extraordinary amplitude. Isn't faith the same? A simple "Yes, Lord," spoken in surrender, shakes the foundations of more than 1,000 anxious efforts. If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. Isaiah 1:19. When you trust God in the unseen, you tune your life to heaven's frequency. And once aligned, your obedience amplifies what heaven pours in, echoing across generations. Isn't it possible that the whisper of your obedience is louder in eternity than the shouts of worldly success? And that posture, humility wrapped in trust, is heaven's signal that you are ready. Because blessings are never scattered without intention. God does not cast pearls into careless hands. Do not throw your pearls to pigs, Matthew 7-6. He chooses vessels that are steady, vessels that won't spill under pressure, vessels that will preserve the fragrance of his gift instead of letting it rot in comparison or envy. How many gifts are wasted, not because heaven failed to give, but because hearts failed to hold? A cracked jar cannot hold living water, but a vessel tested and sealed can carry it across deserts. And that vessel, chosen one, is you. History affirms this truth. The Italian architect Filippo Brunelleschi, who designed the magnificent dome of Florence's cathedral, was ridiculed when he first presented his vision. For years, no one understood the geometry or physics behind his design. Yet he trusted the invisible mathematics that only he could see. And today, the dome still stands as one of the wonders of Renaissance engineering. Does this not mirror your life? You are carrying blueprints that others may not comprehend, but heaven knows the integrity of your foundation. What if the very misunderstandings of others are proof that your design is divine? Psychologists speak of cognitive reframing, the ability to reinterpret a difficult situation not as defeat but as opportunity. Spiritually, reframing is faith, seeing a trial not as punishment but as preparation. Paul reframed prison chains into pulpits, declaring, "What has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel." Philippians 1:12. Could it be that your very obstacle is already serving a greater good? Even while you protest its weight, the battlefield you dread may be the training ground that equips you for victories you could never claim without scars. And in the silence of waiting, isn't your perspective being rewired for glory? And listen to the voices of those who carried this wisdom in our age. Mother Teresa, who walked through streets of poverty in Calcutta, once said, "I am a little pencil in the hand of a writing God who is sending a love letter to the world." Her acceptance of life's harshest realities was not surrender to despair, but trust in God's authorship. What if your suffering is not a meaningless scribble, but a sentence in heaven's unfolding story? Every hardship, every delay, every unanswered question may already be ink-forming lines of testimony. Could it be that what feels broken is simply God still writing? Chosen one, stand now. Faith is not the absence of struggle, it is the refusal to let struggle define you. Obedience is not weakness, it is the doorway to destiny. And acceptance is not lowering your head in shame, it is raising your heart in trust. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Psalm 138:8. Heaven does not place crowns on untested brows, and God does not anoint vessels that leak. You are proof that waiting is not wasting. You are proof that silence is not absence. And the very posture you carry today signals to heaven, you are ready. Rise. For the vessel has been chosen, and that vessel is you. You are that vessel, faithful, tested, strengthened, and trusted. Yet I know there are days when this truth gets buried, hidden under layers of comparison that suffocate joy. We look at others and convince ourselves we are behind, as though destiny runs on a clock the world invented. But the word reminds us, the race is not to the swift or the battle to the strong, but time and chance happen to them all. Ecclesiastes 9:11. Could it be that while you measured yourself against others, heaven was measuring you against eternity? The kingdom does not rush, it builds in layers, stone upon stone. And what feels like delay to you is actually scaffolding for something no one else will be able to copy. Buried also under doubt. Doubt that grows when the noise of the world becomes deafening. Doubt that whispers, maybe you misheard God's promise, and yet Scripture reassures us, if we are faithless, He remains faithful, for He cannot deny Himself. 2 Timothy 2:13. Isn't it striking that the God of the universe does not panic at your questions? He is not startled when faith trembles. He knows how loud the world has become, how addictive the chaos of constant movement is. And isn't it true that silence has become the rarest commodity in our age? Yet stillness is where his fingerprints are most clearly seen. Perhaps your doubt is not a failure, but an invitation to pause, to listen, to rediscover that his voice has always been stronger than the noise. And whether you feel it or not, he has been shaping you. The hands of the potter never left the clay, even when the wheel spun dizzy with trials. Yet you, Lord, are our Father. We are the clay. You are the potter. We are all the work of your hand. Isaiah 64:8. Could it be that the cracks you despise are actually the spaces where his light leaks through? Think of this. Even diamonds are formed under crushing pressure, hidden for centuries beneath layers of earth. Doesn't your life mirror this mystery, that the more pressure you endured, the closer you came to becoming a vessel of priceless worth? And isn't it extraordinary that heaven trusted you with tests others could not carry? Because here's the truth. You've passed more tests than you even realize. Tests you didn't label as such. Tests disguised as betrayals, delays, and moments where silence felt eternal. And here lies a secret: tests always repeat until the lesson is learned. How many cycles have you broken simply by refusing to bow when compromise seemed easier? Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. James 1:12. And even when others gave up, your endurance became heaven's testimony. Isn't it humbling to realize you carry crowns that earth has not yet seen? There were times when walking away looked like the easier option. The exit door seemed safer than the furnace of obedience, yet you chose faith in the fire. You knew, deep down, that some places, some relationships, some environments were poison to your soul, and you walked out before they buried you alive. That was not luck. It was discernment shaped by fire. And it mirrors the story of Daniel, who refused to eat the king's food, choosing discipline over indulgence. Wasn't his restraint the very thing that set him apart for God's favor? What if your hidden choices are the silent victories that angels celebrate? But to understand the gravity of this, we must also see the opposite. Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, chosen, trusted, given access to miracles and mysteries, yet when tested, he sold eternal glory for 30 pieces of silver. His failure was not ignorance, it was compromise. And his name now echoes through history as a warning. Doesn't this reveal that the difference between chosen vessels and shattered ones is not opportunity, but response? And how many today trade away their calling for applause, wealth, or fleeting power, only to discover they forfeited the very thing their soul longed for? Your journey proves otherwise. You refused the counterfeit because you knew heaven's seal was upon you. Like Martin Luther King Jr., who declared, "Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase." You walked forward when the way seemed incomplete. Isn't it powerful that history honors those who trusted what they could not see? You too will be remembered, not for what you avoided, but for the faith that carried you when logic faltered. And that faith has not only preserved you, it has marked you as unshakable, chosen one. Do not shrink back. Every test you endured became a stone in the foundation of your destiny. Every no you spoke to, compromise, was a yes to eternity. The Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. 2 Thessalonians 3:3. You are not behind, you are aligned. You are not forgotten, you are being prepared. And you are not disqualified, you are crowned. Stand now, for heaven calls you faithful. and faithful ones always rise. And now, heaven is ready to tell you something you have longed for, something your heart has carried in whispers during sleepless nights. You are not in the trial anymore. The furnace that once threatened to consume you has already done its work. You are standing now, not in the valley of affliction, but on the proving ground of blessing, after you have suffered a little while. The God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. 1 Peter 5:10. Could it be that the waiting room has already turned into the birthing room, and you simply didn't hear the announcement because heaven speaks in stillness, not in noise? The enemy told you silence meant failure, but heaven knew silence meant gestation, and when gestation ends, birth is inevitable. No darkness can stop what God has set in motion. The life you prayed for is not far away. It is closer than the horizon, closer than the next breath. It has been circling you like clouds, heavy with rain, waiting for the right pressure to release. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. What if the answer you begged for is already planted inside you, waiting for the right season to bloom? And what if you've been walking through the orchard of promise, blind to the fact that the fruit is already hanging above you, ripe for harvest? Isn't it possible that abundance doesn't arrive as a thunderclap, but as a sunrise, silent, inevitable, and undeniable? Even rivers flow long before they roar into waterfalls, and perhaps your blessing is already flowing underground, preparing its reveal. What if your future is no longer coming, but simply unfolding? But here's the paradox. The blessing will not come dressed in the chaos and clamor the world promised. It will not roar like an army or flash like a carnival of noise. Instead, it will be revealed in alignment, in divine timing, in opportunities that do not seduce your ego, but fit the architecture of who you have become. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. Psalm 37:23. Like rivers finding their natural course down a mountain, your life is being aligned with paths designed for you before time began. Could it be that heaven's greatest proof of blessing is not the sudden appearance of riches, but the quiet resonance that everything is finally in place? Think of how constellations look like chaos until alignment reveals their pattern. Your life has been the same, and now, alignment is no longer theory, it is testimony. You will notice it in the way you stand differently. With a spine that has been straightened by trials you once thought would break you. You will hear it in the way you talk differently. No longer desperate for validation but grounded in truth. You will sense it in the way you think differently. Where fear once ruled, but now wisdom sits enthroned. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Just as an eagle that once flapped frantically learns to glide effortlessly on unseen currents, you are moving now, not in striving, but in flow. Isn't it remarkable that storms that once terrified you have become the very winds lifting you higher? And perhaps this is why people around you notice a change they cannot name. You have been crowned with unseen authority. Even silence now carries your weight, because perhaps that was the missing part all along. My friend, the point was never simply about getting what you wanted. It was never about collecting trophies or achieving applause. It was about becoming the kind of person who could carry blessing without being crushed by it, who could hold oil without spilling it, who could taste abundance without choking on pride. Like the oak tree that grows slowly but endures for centuries, your soul has been cultivated not for a season, but for generations. Could it be that heaven wasn't delaying you, but deepening you? And isn't it true that what is built slowly always outlasts what is built quickly? Just as mountains rise over millennia, yet remain immovable, your character has been forged to stand when others fall. What use is a palace without pillars? You are those pillars. This truth echoes not only in Scripture, but also in the patterns of creation. The pearl born only when an oyster endures irritation long enough to transform pain into beauty, or the desert flower that lies dormant for decades until rare rains awaken it in sudden bloom. Have you not lived this mystery, that the very things meant to break you became the soil for your becoming, and like glaciers carving valleys over centuries, slow and unseen, heaven's hand has been shaping your destiny with patience. The question is, can you see that the beauty was already forming beneath the surface all along? Even the seasons preach this gospel. Winter looks like death, but it is only the womb of spring. What if your apparent endings have always been disguised beginnings? Art and story confirm this. In the film The Mission, 1986, a tale set in South America, a former slave trader turns into a Jesuit priest. His transformation is not announced by trumpet or acclaim, but revealed quietly through obedience, sacrifice, and alignment with God's will. The power of his redemption was not in the grandeur of his victories, but in the stillness of his surrender. Isn't your story the same? The proving ground is not glamorous, yet it proves who you truly are. Your breakthrough has never been about noise. It has always been about authenticity. And like a symphony that begins in minor chords before resolving in triumph, your life has been composed in sorrow only to end in glory. Even Shakespeare echoed this in King Lear. Ripeness is all. Are you not reap now? And now heaven whispers a truth that silences every lie. God trusted you. He refined you. He saw what others ignored. And he placed within you treasures that fire could not destroy. We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. 2 Corinthians 4-7. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are the seals of your authority. Your silence was not abandonment. It was preparation. And your journey was not about losing yourself. It was about becoming yourself. Isn't it powerful to realize that every loss was only pruning, and pruning always leads to fruit? If the gardener cut deeply, it was only because he saw branches strong enough to bear abundance. Chosen one, rise. The trial is over. The proving ground is beneath your feet. The crown is no longer far away. It is already fitted to your head. He who calls you is faithful. He will surely do it. 1 Thessalonians 5:24. Do not shrink from this moment. Walk forward with the calm of one who knows heaven has already declared them ready. This is your time. This is your blessing. This is your unveiling. And like a sunrise, no hand can stop. Your destiny is inevitable. The world will see what heaven already knew. You were chosen for this very hour, and now he is ready to bless you in ways you thought had already passed you by. You passed the test. Heaven has stamped approval on your journey, and you don't need to second guess it anymore. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. But let's be honest for a moment. Passing the test rarely feels like passing anything at all, does it? It felt more like breaking. It felt more like losing time, losing friends, losing energy. It felt like waiting forever in silence, watching everyone else run ahead while you stood still. It felt like doing everything right, praying with every fiber of your being, yet still wondering if heaven had somehow forgotten your name. Could it be that the silence wasn't abandonment, but alignment? That the stillness wasn't neglect, but preparation? And if preparation was the real goal, then perhaps what you thought was delayed was actually the evidence of His love, building your foundation deeper than you knew you needed. I know what it's like to walk through a season where every door feels sealed shut, where every attempt echoes back with resistance. It is like being trapped in a corridor of locked gates, each one refusing to open no matter how much you knock. When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. Psalm 32:3. Have you been there where time feels like quicksand, pulling you deeper into questions? You start doubting not only your path, but even your ability to hear God. Was I wrong? Did I mishear Him? Did I miss my chance? These are the echoes that torment the soul in the waiting. Isn't it strange that doubt shouts loudest just before destiny appears? The silence of heaven tests the architecture of your trust. Like a bridge designed to hold unseen weight, your faith was being stress-tested for the weight of glory to come. And if a bridge collapses under small loads, how can it ever hold the traffic of nations? Perhaps this explains why the load you carried was heavier than others. It was preparation for a capacity beyond measure. And then comes the cruelest part. The voices of people around you, people who cannot see the invisible war you are fighting, reduce your entire journey to a careless sentence. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be. They speak as though destiny is a lottery ticket, as if divine purpose can be cancelled by circumstance. For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Romans 11:29. Isn't it painful when others misinterpret your process as failure? Yet even this is a hidden classroom. God uses their misunderstanding as insulation, protecting you from premature exposure. Just as the seed is buried in darkness, hidden under soil that looks like death, you too were hidden. Isn't it possible that obscurity was the very shield heaven placed over you until the time was right? And if the seed had bloomed too soon, it would have withered in the wrong season. Timing is the invisible wall that protects destiny. Even when it feels like denial, science calls this phenomenon latent potential, energy that is stored but not yet expressed. A bow pulled backward does not mean retreat, it means acceleration. Could it be that your waiting was not wasted, but compressed, storing power for the moment of release, though it linger? Wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Habakkuk 2-3. What if the years that felt like loss were actually tension being built into your destiny? Just as sound waves must strike the right frequency before resonance shakes the walls, your life was waiting for the divine frequency to unlock doors no human hand could open. Have you realized that heaven was tuning you like an instrument, aligning your vibration with eternity's song? And if the note was struck too soon, the melody would fall flat. Waiting was never about absence. It was about harmony. History whispers this truth. The French sculptor Auguste Rodin once said, "Patience is also a form of action." His masterpieces emerged not from rushing, but from chiseling slowly, removing what did not belong until beauty revealed itself. Isn't your life the same? The chiseling, the delay, the seasons that felt like subtraction. They were not to destroy, but to reveal. And just as Rodin's statues emerged from stone, your destiny is emerging from the resistance that once confined you. Could it be that heaven has been carving away everything that did not reflect who you truly are? And what if every strike of the chisel was heaven's way of freeing you from the weight of what you were never meant to carry? True beauty is not created in haste. It is uncovered with precision. And your story is the same. Chosen one, rise. The silence was never the end. The closed doors were not rejection. They were redirection. He opens doors no one can shut, and shuts doors no one can open. Revelation 3-7. You were not being buried, You were being planted. You were not being delayed. You were being aligned. And you were never forgotten. You were being refined. This is your moment. Walk forward with the assurance that you passed the test. Even when it felt like a loss, heaven has declared you ready. And when heaven declares it, no earthly voice can cancel it. Rise with confidence. Because what once felt like a grave is about to be revealed as a garden. And when the garden blooms, all will know it was God who planted you. But here's the truth. They could never see. You weren't being punished. You weren't being ignored. And you certainly weren't being overlooked. What you endured was preparation, holy weight training for your soul. You were being prepared to carry something heavier, holier, and infinitely more enduring than the shallow things you once thought you were asking for. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. 2 Corinthians 4:17. Could it be that what you once called delay was actually God stretching your shoulders to hold a mantle that generations after you will benefit from? Isn't it remarkable that heaven was building capacity in you when earth thought you were collapsing? The tests that broke others became the very ground that stabilized you. And if foundations must go deep before towers rise, then perhaps your hidden pain was simply heaven laying stone upon stone for something that would outlast you. See, strength doesn't come wrapped in ribbons or polished speeches. It doesn't arrive with applause or headlines. It comes when you're forced to keep standing in storms that should have knocked you flat. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. Isaiah 43:2. Your strength was born in nights where prayers were met with silence, where endurance became your only friend. Haven't you noticed that storms reveal more than sunshine ever can? Could it be that the thunder you feared was actually the applause of heaven, clapping for your endurance? And just as steel is only formed in fire, your spirit is only tempered when pressure is relentless. Think of trees on mountaintops. They are twisted, scarred by the wind, yet their roots are deeper, their survival unmatched. Doesn't your journey resemble those trees scarred? Yes, but unshakable. Love, too, does not always appear in the gentle embrace of someone staying. Sometimes it reveals itself in the heartbreak of someone leaving. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Their departure forced you to search for a well inside yourself that never runs dry. Isn't it strange that what looked like abandonment was actually excavation? Uncovering a source of love, heaven planted within you from the beginning. You discovered that your worth was not tied to their presence but to His promise. And now, your love flows pure, freer, unchained from dependency. The exit of some was the entrance of your true identity. What if rejection was heaven's protection in disguise? And isn't it true that a rose often blooms brighter after pruning, even though the cut seemed cruel? In the same way, your love now carries fragrance only possible after loss. And abundance, how we misunderstand it. It is not merely gold coins or full barns. It is joy in the drought, laughter in scarcity, peace in lean years. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Philippians 4:12. True abundance is uncovered when you can stretch a little and still find joy. When you can look at emptiness and still see possibility. Haven't you lived this already? Finding songs in silence, hope in ashes, and light in the midnight hour. Isn't it true that a candle proves its value only when darkness falls? The same is true of your abundance. Its worth is revealed not in overflow, but in lack. And just as desert rivers carve canyons over centuries, so too has your scarcity carved character. beauty, and depth within you. Your abundance was not withheld, it was being redefined. History affirms this. The American poet Maya Angelou, who endured hardship and injustice, once said, "You may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated." Her voice carried power because it was pressed through suffering. And isn't your story much the same? Those defeats did not define you, but refined you. Angelou's testimony proves that endurance becomes the ink with which destiny is written, and in your life, every scar has become a signature of survival and grace. Could it be that your story, like hers, will echo far beyond your lifetime? Because what was born in pain always carries timeless authority. The world honors those who rise despite chains, not those who never faced them, and heaven writes your name on the same page of endurance. Yet let us not ignore the shadowed path, the example of those who faced storms but chose surrender instead of strength. King Rehoboam, son of Solomon, he inherited wisdom's throne but despised counsel, choosing pride over patience. His arrogance fractured a kingdom, splitting Israel into division and weakness. His downfall shows what happens when weight is given to untested hands. They collapse, and many suffer. Isn't it sobering to realize that refusing formation is more dangerous than enduring trials? Could it be that your preparation spared you from the same fate? Rehoboam's story is a warning. Crowns without character turn into curses. And how many leaders today repeat his error, mistaking applause for authority and speed for strength? But not you. You endured what others ran from. So understand this. Chosen one, what you have walked through was not failure, but formation. Heaven was chiseling you like marble, shaping a masterpiece, while others saw only rubble. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Philippians 1-6. You were not abandoned, you were refined. You were not forsaken, you were fortified. And now, you stand as living proof that storms do not break chosen vessels, they strengthen them. Could it be that the very cracks in your life are now windows for his light to shine through? The work is not finished, but it is unstoppable. Your scars are not shame, they are strategy. Rise, for the world must see what heaven already declared. You are ready. The drought, the storm, the heartbreak, the silence, none of it was wasted. It was the sacred gymnasium of your soul, where every repetition of endurance built eternal muscle. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. Isaiah 40-31. You were never walking toward failure. You were walking toward flight. And now the sky itself is calling your name. The eagle that once stumbled on the cliff is now gliding above storms. And the world will not only see your rise, they will witness heaven's fingerprints all over your life. But here's the truth they could never see. You weren't being punished. You weren't being ignored. And you certainly weren't being overlooked. What you endured was preparation, holy weight training for your soul. You were being prepared to carry something heavier, holier, and infinitely more enduring than the shallow things you once thought you were asking for. For our present troubles are small and won't last very long, yet they produce for us a glory that vastly outweighs them and will last forever. 2 Corinthians 4:17. Could it be that what you once called delay was actually God stretching your shoulders to hold a mantle that generations after you will benefit from? Isn't it remarkable that heaven was building capacity in you when earth thought you were collapsing? The tests that broke others became the very ground that stabilized you, and if foundations must go deep before towers rise, then perhaps your hidden pain was simply heaven laying stone upon stone for something that would outlast you. Even a mountain begins as pressure beneath the earth before it pierces the sky. You know what heaven saw? Heaven saw the nights you stayed awake. Mind, racing with replayed memories and questions without answers. Heaven saw when your voice cracked. Yet you whispered a prayer, even when you had nothing left to say. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. Psalm 34-15. Doesn't it change everything when you realize that none of those moments were invisible, that each whispered prayer, though quiet to you, thundered in heaven? Haven't you wondered why you're still here? Despite the weight that tried to bury you, it's because every breath was counted, every tear was stored, every sigh was recorded in God's eternal book. Even the silence of your pain spoke louder than the enemy's accusations, and when you thought your words vanished into darkness, heaven was weaving them into light. Heaven also saw the days you gave when you had nothing left to give, when you extended kindness while you were empty, when you poured into others while no one poured into you. Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Matthew 25-40. Could it be that these unseen acts were the actual test, not the dramatic ones you expected? Isn't it true that rivers prove their strength, not by floods but by steady flow over time? And you, though dry, though weary, still gave, like a candle burning itself to bring light to others. You became living proof that selflessness in suffering is the highest worship, and heaven marked every act with eternal ink. The kingdom is built not on grand gestures, but on quiet sacrifices. No one applauds but God himself. Even a drop of water offered in love can ripple into eternity. Heaven saw the moments when you wanted to disappear, when vanishing felt easier than standing. Yet instead of retreating, you chose to move forward, even if only one trembling step at a time. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. Proverbs 24-16. Isn't it astonishing that heaven never graded you by how fast you moved, but by the fact that you kept moving? Could it be that your shaky steps were still sacred strides in God's eyes, just as tiny streams carve vast canyons given time? Your persistence has carved valleys of faith in eternity. The enemy wanted your silence, but your continued steps became your song, and the chorus that rose from your perseverance now echoes in heaven's halls. Even snails, slow and fragile, still reach their destination because they never stop crawling. Your walk of faith is no different. That's what made you pass the faithfulness, not the perfection. You thought the exam of destiny would look like a written test, with clear questions and visible answers, maybe even a sign written across the sky. But faith is not graded on flawless performance. Faith is proven in scars. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. Hebrews 11:6. Haven't you realized that heaven was never waiting for you to be flawless, but faithful? The vineyard keeper does not search for perfect grapes, he seeks fruitful ones. And you bore fruit in the harshest season. What if the very cracks you despised are what proved your vessel worthy? Faithfulness is not the absence of struggle, it is the presence of endurance through it. And isn't it striking that even broken bread feeds multitudes, while untouched loaves rot in silence? Your brokenness was not wasted, it became nourishment. Nature itself preaches this gospel. The pearl is born from irritation in the oyster, not from comfort. The olive releases its oil only when crushed. The tallest redwood trees survive storms, not by avoiding wind, but by intertwining their roots underground with others. Unseen, but unbreakable. Isn't it true that your own hidden endurance was the underground network that kept you alive? Could it be that your trials were not wasted? They were fertilizer for your becoming. Even the stars we see in the night sky shine from light that began its journey centuries ago. Doesn't your endurance feel the same light birthed long ago, finally reaching this moment? And, like a caterpillar that dissolves before becoming a butterfly, your old self had to vanish so your true wings could emerge. The earth itself testifies. Transformation is always hidden before it is seen. Art and story affirm this mystery. In Beethoven's Missa Solemnis, one of his greatest sacred compositions, the music does not begin with triumph, but with trembling. Fragmented notes that gradually build into glory. Isn't your life the same? The test was never a single dramatic crescendo. It was the slow unfolding of grace through broken chords until the harmony revealed itself. What if your faltering steps, your whispers, your cracks were actually the notes God was weaving into a symphony larger than your life? Heaven never needed you to play perfectly. It only needed you to stay in the song. And just as Beethoven composed much of his music while deaf, hearing only what resounded inside his soul, you too have been guided, not by what you heard in the natural, but what echoed in the unseen. Your life is the score. Heaven is still conducting, and the finale will be glorious. So take this in. Chosen one, your faith has already passed the test. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised. James 1:12. You were not tested to expose your weakness, you were tested to prove your faith. And now, heaven declares over you, faithful. Heaven calls you, steady. Heaven names you, chosen. The trial was the furnace, but the furnace has ended. What remains is gold. Rise now, for you are not in rehearsal anymore. This is the unveiling of your divine performance. And when the curtain lifts, the world will not just applaud you, they will witness the glory of God shining through you. The play has reached its climax, and your role was written by heaven itself. But the real test was never in the spectacular moments, never in the stages or the spotlights. The real test was hidden in your ordinary days, hidden in the choices no one else applauded, hidden in the moments where you felt invisible, yet God's gaze was fixed on you. Your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. Matthew 6:6. Haven't you realized that your greatest victories were fought in silence, when no one clapped and no one noticed? Could it be that heaven values what earth overlooks? The unseen, the uncelebrated, the unrecorded. These became the very building blocks of your testimony, like the foundation of a cathedral, buried and unseen beneath the ground. Your ordinary days were carrying extraordinary weight, and without those buried foundations, no cathedral could ever reach for the heavens. Every small obedience was like one more stone laid beneath the soil. What you thought was wasted time was in fact sacred architecture. You've passed through loneliness, seasons where silence felt louder than any sermon. You've endured nights where your own reflection seemed like your only companion. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. Could it be that loneliness was not a punishment but an invitation, God drawing you into the quiet chambers of his heart? What if the empty chair beside you was not evidence of absence, but a throne where his presence sat closer than breath? Loneliness pressed you into a depth no crowd could ever give. Just as the roots of trees stretch deeper when water is scarce, your soul stretched into God when human hands let go. The emptiness that once felt like death became the echo chamber where his voice grew unmistakably clear. And in that clarity, he carved strength into you that no applause could have given. You began to realize solitude was not your enemy, it was your training ground. Every tear watered the soil of intimacy, preparing you for fruit no storm can uproot. You've passed through a misunderstanding. People judged what they couldn't interpret, reduced your journey to headlines that misrepresented your heart. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Matthew 5:11. Isn't it humbling to know that Christ himself endured the same misjudgment? Could it be that their misunderstanding was the camouflage God used to protect you from exploitation? Psychology calls this projection, when others cast their insecurities onto you. Their words revealed more about their wounds than your worth. Isn't it true that sometimes rejection is just redirection in disguise? And what if every false label was a reminder that heaven had already written your true name in the book of life? Every attack became a lesson in spiritual discernment. Every lie sharpened your awareness of the truth. And in time, what once wounded you began to fortify you, until their arrows only proved the strength of your armor. You've passed through seasons where being different made you feel like an outsider. The uniqueness that heaven wrote into your DNA became the very thing others mocked. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Isn't it strange how difference often feels like exile before it feels like destiny? In physics, resonance occurs when one frequency refuses to conform, but instead amplifies until the environment adjusts. Could it be that your difference was resonance, heaven's frequency vibrating through you until the world had no choice but to adjust? And isn't it true that outsiders often become leaders precisely because they never fit inside man-made molds? What looked like exclusion was preparation for influence. And once you stop apologizing for your difference, you begin to see it as your assignment. Your very presence disturbs false systems. Because you were never built to sustain them, you were built to reform them. Your exile became evidence that you belong to another order, another kingdom. But here's the revelation. The very difference that made others turn away is the difference that now sets you apart as chosen. The very loneliness that nearly crushed you became the soil where intimacy with God grew roots too deep to ever be pulled up. Those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. Psalm 92:13. Just as volcanic soil, though born from fire, produces the richest harvest, so your pain has become the ground for your fruitfulness. Isn't it beautiful that what others despised is the very thing heaven delights in? Your separation was not subtraction, it was consecration. And consecration always precedes coronation. Every sacrifice, every silent yes to God was a hidden anointing poured over your head. Every season of obscurity was an oil press, crushing you, but also producing fragrance. And the fragrance of that oil is what heaven is about to release to the world. And now, heaven is ready to reveal what all of this has been for: the silence, the misunderstandings, the loneliness, the waiting. All of it was scaffolding for the structure heaven was building in you. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. In architecture, tension is distributed across hidden beams to hold up visible beauty. Could it be that your hidden pain has been the beams holding up the platform of your calling, just as orchestras hold moments of pause before releasing crescendos? Your pauses were never wasted. They were divine strategy. And now, the music of your life is ready to rise. The divine engineer has inspected every beam and found its sound. The conductor has lifted his hand, and the silence is about to break into symphony. What felt like endless waiting is about to prove itself as perfect timing. History itself echoes this. The Italian conductor Arturo Toscanini, known for his fiery passion, once said, "To some it is noise, to others it is music, but to me It is the power of God. His ability to draw heavenly power through earthly notes came not from comfort, but from discipline, isolation, and relentless focus. Isn't that your story too? What seemed like noise was being tuned into harmony. Your discipline in hidden days has made you an instrument heaven can play without distortion, and the symphony is about to begin. Like Toscanini's orchestra, every note of your journey, high or low, sweet or dissonant, was preparing for this moment. Greatness is never improvised. It is rehearsed in silence. And heaven has rehearsed you long enough. The stage is set. So don't be surprised when the invitations start coming. Don't be shocked when doors swing open that you didn't even knock on. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Revelation 3-8. You will not be called because you conformed, but because you endured. You will not be elevated because you were perfect, but because you were faithful. This is your unveiling. This is your commissioning. And when heaven sets the stage, no man can dim the light that shines upon you. Rise. Chosen one, the world has yet to see what your hidden tests have prepared you for. And when you walk through those doors, you will not walk as who you were, but as who heaven has declared you to be. The applause of men may fade, but the endorsement of God will thunder through eternity. Don't be shocked when your name starts showing up in rooms you've never physically entered. Don't second guess it when favor begins to move faster than your doubts can keep up with. This is not random, it is resonance. Just as in physics, when a hidden frequency shakes a bridge until it cannot help but respond. So the sound of your obedience has been vibrating through unseen corridors, shaking doors open in palaces you've never walked into. Could it be that your very silence has been speaking louder than the noise of those who tried to bury you? You didn't miss the moment. You didn't fail the exam. You endured without growing bitter. And endurance, in the architecture of heaven, is the steel beam that can bear the weight of legacy. Every unseen yes you gave, God, was not wasted. It was stored as kinetic energy, waiting for this moment to be unleashed. And now, that moment has come, yes. But understand this, the reward will not be a private whisper this time. Not just a quiet reassurance in your spirit. It will be public, visible, undeniable. It will be the kind of blessing that even your enemies will have to choke on as they confess. Only God could have done that. Haven't you noticed that true vindication is never whispered in the dark, it thunders in broad daylight? The scriptures affirm this. The Lord will vindicate his people and relent concerning his servants. Psalm 135-14. The stage of heaven is about to spill over into the marketplace of men, like an ancient cathedral lit suddenly by sunlight, piercing through its stained glass. Your life will blaze with colors no one saw coming. Could it be that every dark corridor was preparing for this illumination? But don't confuse it. This blessing is not just about proving people wrong. That would make the stage too small, the ceiling too low. This is about proving God right. About proving that heaven was correct to trust you with weight, with responsibility, with legacy. Architecture reminds us that the higher the tower, the deeper the foundation must be dug. Could it be that your hidden seasons of pain were not delays, but foundations being driven deep enough to sustain skyscraper favor? And what if the applause of men is only the echo, while the true sound is heaven saying, "Well done, faithful servant"? In the modern world, testimonies mirror this truth. Take Oprah Winfrey, a woman who grew up in poverty, abused and overlooked. Before her name filled boardrooms and international stages, she endured ridicule, rejection, and pain so deep it could have crushed her. Yet she chose endurance over bitterness. Vision over despair. Isn't it striking that the very woman discounted by her environment became a voice to millions across nations? The weight of her legacy was forged in silence, in lonely places. And if one woman in nature can rise from ashes to global influence, how much more can you, chosen by heaven, rise when divine favor breathes upon you? But let me also remind you through the caution of a counterexample, Adolf Hitler, who also endured obscurity in his early years, was rejected as an art student, dismissed by society. Instead of choosing humility and transformation, he fed bitterness, nurtured resentment, and unleashed destruction upon millions. Isn't it sobering that the same obscurity which can form saints can also deform tyrants? That silence which can shape prophets can also sculpt oppressors. His name entered rooms, yes, but in infamy, as a shadow of what happens when pain is weaponized rather than surrendered. History branded him not as chosen, but as condemned. This contrast is heaven's reminder. Endurance without bitterness leads to blessing, but endurance twisted into hate leads only to curses. And here you stand, chosen one, not in the path of tyranny, but in the path of testimony. You endured and did not collapse. You walked through fire but refused to become smoke. Like tempered glass, you were heated, cooled, and strengthened until your breaking point became unbreakable. Isn't it miraculous that what shattered others only sharpened you? We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. 2 Corinthians 4-8. The pressure you endured was proof of capacity, not evidence of collapse. So now the blessing will not remain abstract. It will touch your relationships. It will influence your finances. It will echo in your name. Legacy is not a concept, it is a system. And you, chosen one, have been built to carry it. Like resonance in music halls, your story will amplify beyond your own reach, filling places you may never physically visit, yet leaving echoes that last for generations. Could it be that your children's children will inherit not just your DNA, but the resonance of your faith? The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. Proverbs 10:22. What if your endurance today is the inheritance of tomorrow? And when it all unfolds, remember this: the point was never revenge. The point was revelation. The goal was never applause. The goal was alignment. The crown you wear is not merely recognition from men, it is confirmation from heaven. And when your name enters those rooms, it will not be a coincidence. It will be covenant. And I know you might still feel like you're carrying some doubts, like the residue of unanswered questions clings to your heart. You might even be questioning if you're really ready, as though readiness was some flawless state you could ever fully arrive at. But let me reveal to you, readiness is not about the absence of trembling. It is the decision to move forward even when your knees shake. It is about walking into waters that look overwhelming, trusting that God has already divided them long before your foot touches the sea. Think of the eagle. It does not wait for the storm to disappear. Instead, it uses the very turbulence of the wind to rise higher. Could it be that the winds you fear are the very currents designed to lift you above what once held you down? Readiness is about moving forward anyway, knowing that God has already gone ahead of you, like roots reaching through rock to find hidden streams. Your faith has been stretching toward waters unseen, sustained not by what the eye could see, but by what the Spirit knew. And when those roots finally break into an underground spring, the tree does not apologize for flourishing. It simply bears fruit. In the same way, Your obedience has been tunneling quietly beneath the surface, and the fruit about to emerge will silence every question about whether you were truly ready. Remember the words of Scripture. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Deuteronomy 31:8. Isn't it astonishing that before you even took the first step, God had already walked the entire path? So, stand tall. Even if shadows still linger around your memory, don't minimize what you've been through as though it were trivial. The oak tree does not apologize for the storms that scarred its bark. It wears those scars as proof that it could bend without breaking. The lion does not downplay the battles it fought to claim its territory. The roar itself testifies to survival. And you, the chosen one, must not explain away the strength it took to survive. Strength is not the absence of wounds. It is the testimony that wounds could not stop you. Don't act like it was nothing, because in heaven's record, it was everything. The tears that soaked your pillow were catalogued like sacred ink, writing your story in places you couldn't see. The nights that felt endless were like the long winter that prepares the earth for spring's eruption of life. Is not the caterpillar's burial in the cocoon the very prelude to wings? What looked like a coffin was actually a chrysalis. Could it be that every suffocating moment was midwifing your flight? And heaven knows it. Heaven has always known it. Your name has already been spoken in places you haven't stepped into yet. This is resonance, the echo of your obedience reverberating into halls you have not entered. Like a mountain stream carving valleys long before travelers arrive. Your name has carved its way into atmospheres your feet will one day inhabit. Think of the wild salmon that swims upstream, leaping against the current, unseen by most of the world, yet ensuring the continuation of its legacy. Your journey has felt upstream, but it was forging survival. It was ensuring continuity. It was preparing the future. And what is legacy, if not the invisible current that carries your name into places your body has not yet walked? Your reward is already in motion. The seasons of agriculture testify to this. When the farmer plants in faith, the harvest is already written into the seed. The rain and the sun simply reveal what was hidden all along. And isn't that what Scripture promises? Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6-9. Could it be that your harvest is not waiting to be created? It is waiting to be revealed. The orbits of planets remind us of divine timing, though unseen from the naked eye. Every revolution carries order. Every orbit announces precision. So too is your destiny locked in a rhythm that cannot be disrupted by human interference. And the story that felt like it dragged on too long is about to unfold in a way that makes sense of every hidden detail. The way rivers seem to wander across the landscape only to finally converge at the sea. It is the same with your life. What seemed like detours were tributaries leading you to the ocean of purpose. In the drama of Shakespeare's Hamlet, the prince declares, "There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Rough hew them how we will." Even centuries ago, men recognized that destiny is not random. It is sculpted by an unseen hand. Could it be that your rough edges were always under the chisel of divinity, preparing a masterpiece greater than you imagined? Because you, my friend, you passed. You endured like the desert cactus that stores unseen water until the season of bloom, stunning the barren land with flowers that defy the drought. You passed like the night sky holding stars in place until dawn, reminding the earth that light was never extinguished. And now, the unfolding is not about survival anymore. It is about spectacle. It is about heaven writing in bold letters what was once scribbled in whispers. You, the chosen one, will see the reason behind the wait. And when you see it, You will no longer doubt readiness. You will know it was always preparation for glory. Chosen ones. The moment you feared has finally arrived, yet it is not here to destroy you, but to reveal you. What once felt like an ending has now been unmasked as a beginning. The trembling in your spirit was not weakness, but the birth pangs of destiny pressing its way into daylight. Heaven has measured every tear, recorded every silence, and marked every hidden sacrifice. And now, the curtain is being lifted. You are stepping into what you were always prepared for. Remember this: fear is not the sign you are unworthy. It is the sign you are standing on holy ground, where the weight of glory is heavier than the weight of your doubts. What you dreaded is what God designed to elevate you. The moment has not come to break you, but to crown you. If this word has spoken to your soul today, I invite you to take a step of faith with us. Like this message, share it with someone who needs it. Comment below with your reflections. Comment 777 if you are declaring alignment with heaven, and subscribe so you never miss the next prophetic release. Every interaction helps spread this light further. And I thank you deeply, whether you've supported through a super thanks or simply by being here. Your presence matters. May the peace of God surround you like a fortress. May His wisdom guide you like a lamp in the darkest night. And may His favor open doors no man can shut. Until we meet again, stay faithful, stay expectant, and remember, you are chosen, and the best is still to come.